Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Stronghold Floors podcast. Today we are going to be talking about chips. And we're not talking about potato chips. We are talking about the chips that we use for the vast majority of the floors that we install. We're going to be talking about what kind of colors there are available, which colors should you choose, what do the different sizes have to do with the way in which your floor looks. And as always, we have Mike Mintzmoyer, the owner and expert at chip size selection.
Whatever we want to call them. Chips, flakes. They're the same thing.
If we keep talking about chips, I will immediately be going out to Wawa and getting a bag of
Middlesworth.
I guess I should say I would prefer the Voodoo chips from who is that? Is it Utz? Actually, I think Utz owns.
That's
company.
a separate.
Those are like
one,
my favorite ones right now.
Yeah.
Spicy,
Voodoo.
a little sweet. Anyway, that's I will be wanting a bag of potato chips by the end of this, but I want them to be salty and not whatever these kind of chips would taste like. So, anyway, with that said, let's jump in, Mike. Let's just acknowledge that, the majority of epoxy floors that we're installing in garages, the foundation of them is these colored chips, right? So let's just start at the base level here. And what are they? What are these decorative chips, and why are we using them?
Well, so the chips or the flakes, when we talk about them in the foundation sense, they're the foundation of the decorative part of it. So it doesn't really matter whether you're throwing them into an epoxy or a polyaspartic. When we talk about that today, it really doesn't matter what's under them or over them, as long as it's a good chemical polymer, because there's got to be something to hold them and something to protect them. These flakes, really what they are a polymer themselves. It's almost like you purposely took something that has the colors you want, and they dry them out on these big sheets, and then they get broken and sized depending upon what kind of, like, almost like a screen they fall through. And so when we talk about them today, they're not uniform. It's not like they're squares or circles. They do not have any uniform uniform shape, but they get sized. And the reason you size them is so that you can have either a consistent look by having most of the flakes be roughly the same size, or the chips, or they can be varied so that you're mixing some that are bigger and smaller. And so there's really companies that specialize this. And in the United States, there's really two companies that make these. And that's, this is not something that people make their own chips or flakes.
Right.
We all buy from the same two companies here in the United States, or you're importing them from somewhere like China. But they exist in so many colors. Like our particular vendor, when they're making these flakes or these chips, they're making them in over 160 different colors. And when I say colors, solid colors. So, like a uniform blue, the color of my shirt or your shirt.
Yep.
But they could also be not entirely uniform, where they have some color variation, like some striping in them. They can be made to look like flakes of mica or stone. So there are some specialty flakes. But to be honest, most garages, 99% of them in the United States, they probably have these blends where it's solid colors. So it might be a particular black or off black, a particular white or off white, 2 or 3 grays in it. That's the most common blend you're going to see in the United States. It's one of ours. We call it Adams for Adams County. It's the checker flag in a sense. It's the black, white, grays, and it gets thrown onto a gray epoxy or a gray polyaspartic base coat. So
there's a colored base coat that sort of is associated with each of the blends that we offer.
Yes.
And that's just to kind of, match whatever,
it
color combination.
Yes. And it gives uniformity under the flakes, because otherwise, if you were working on a concrete slab that may have stains or something like that, and you just used a clear to hold these flakes, you could see that color showing through where the flakes. When we talk about, saturating a floor, and you're never really hiding 100% of the base color unless you get into the really, really small flakes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. People really only talk about three sizes. There's really six, but there's really only three that have any real heavy usage these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, you definitely want to have some uniform color under the flakes.
Yeah, and it we'll get into the different sizes because I'm curious to hear how you sort of break down the purpose of those. Um, but before we do, I think during this podcast, we'll be talking about some of these things, but we're also going to be showing some examples that we'll add in after we do our recording here. So all the people who are watching this can see some examples of the different colors. I'll say right from the get-go here, if you're interested to see what colors that we offer, you can go to our website, strongholdfloors.com, and you can see the different color combinations. And if you request a free quote, uh, we'll actually have samples that we'll bring to your home so you can see them in person, and
Absolutely.
not rely just on what's on your screen. So you can see some of those actual color options in person when our team comes to your house to take a look at your garage. But going into the chip sizes, but the colors, we can review some of the colors, but I'm most interested in to talk to you about, like, what's the purpose of the different sizes? Wouldn't it just make sense to offer one size because you know, we're just covering a garage floor, but there's actually some reasoning behind choosing, the jumbo, which is like a 1 inch or roughly a 1 inch chip versus, the 1/8 inch, the tight versions. So break that down for us. Why the different sizes? How do you walk through recommending one size over another when you're talking to a client?
Sure. Yeah. Great question, Sam. So there's really six sizes. And as you mentioned, there's a 1 inch where it's roughly 1 inch across in some dimension or another, a half inch, a quarter inch, which is what we use in the garage primarily. And when I say quarter inch blend, it means all the different colors. If there's five colors, they're roughly all somewhat uniform in size ish, as far as when they screened them out. There's 1/8 inch, 1/16, and what they call fine or 1/32. So when you look all the way back historically, the chips came about because it was to emulate the look of terrazzo stone, like you see in airports when you walk through and you see the different color stones that were held together either by, in olden days, a cement paste where they put it out and then they honed it and ground them till it's super smooth. These days, when you do terrazzo, those stones are actually held in an epoxy or a
Mm,
polymer, and they still grind them down, make them super smooth. Because when you put that into an airport, that or a residential, I'm sorry, a commercial building, it has a lifespan of 50 plus years when maintained. So what they wanted to do was make a cheaper alternative to emulate that look, and that's really kind of how the flakes came about. And initially, that 1 inch was to more emulate that bigger size stone that you saw in terrazzo, but they generally did not throw them real tight together. 1 inch looks really weird if you have a bunch of them. Even half inch, you don't really see them used much anymore, except if you add some half inch into something where it's blended with multiple sizes. And that's the standout, the big stone in a sense that you're looking at.
mhm.
Quarter inch became super popular. It lays out better and it's easy to get a uniform look across whatever that base coat is. So if we put out a gray and then we throw our Adams or our Somerset blend into it, it tends to lay out very well and saturate very well. And you might have five or six colors, but it gives a semi uniform look across the floor. Works really well. Um, it top coats very well and makes a dimpled texture. So you still
Mm,
have some texture, but there's no real jagginess to it in the sense of the way
yeah.
that the clear coats lay on it. 1/8 inch, a little bit smaller, Sometimes a little hard to distinguish from quarter. 16th looks more like when they used to do quartz floors were the most popular heavy duty use of epoxy flooring systems, where they put epoxy and they threw the decorative quartz or the sand into it, clear coat, more sand, clear coat, makes a very, very durable floor. The 16th inch chips and the 32nd emulate that look.
Yeah, they're pretty
And
fine.
yes, the 32nd almost looks like very small sand, and then it's actually very hard to pick out the colors oftentimes, you
And
know.
we're not really installing a whole lot of those right
No,
now
30
anyway.
second inch chips, people don't really use them much anymore. They kinda came out, people tried them a lot around 2006, 2007, and I saw them kinda go away again.
Yeah.
The 16th inch chips, even the small ones that give a pretty uniform look to it, they're really, you mostly are gonna see them in a commercial bathroom. You go
Yeah.
into the local 7-Eleven, Wawa, Sheetz, whatever, and you walk into the bathroom and you see that epoxy floor and it runs up the wall
Yep.
on the cove base where it just transitions and it just makes that round right up the wall.
Yep.
They use it for that because those smaller chips lay out in a way that you can round them, you can
Yeah.
transition.
Makes a
A
lot of
quarter
sense.
inch isn't good for that, but it we can get into a whole bunch of reasons why, but they just are the best for the garage. And the primary reason is it's the look, the feel. And when we talk about the aesthetics, it's not really just, oh, it's beautiful to look at, or the colors really complement something. When I talk about the aesthetics with people, I'm really talking about it more from, okay, if I'm driving into a garage and I'm going to
Yep.
bring stones in and I'm going to have some blow in debris from
Exactly.
leaves and grass or whatever, a quarter inch chip works the best because it hides the best.
Exactly.
Yes. And one of the things that people find is when you go too small and are uniform, you see everything. So, if you do a big garage and you use a really small chip, and we really try to talk people out of this, I can stand there and look across 30 feet and go, there's a pebble sitting right there because it sticks out. There is just nothing for it to hide in. And on top of that, even when you clean them and you get done mopping and it dries, you see all your streaks because of that uniformity. And
Yeah.
it's really no better than doing a solid color floor. That uniformity is only good if you want to drop a screw on it. You're a mechanic and you're under a vehicle and you drop something, you want to be able to see it.
Yep.
But if you're just driving in and out of your garage, you want it to walk out and go, "Yeah, it looks great." And you
Yeah.
don't want to know it's dirty. You don't want to
Yeah.
know about the little pebbles setting here and there. So,
Yeah. It's amazing. It is really amazing how our eyes, like, we're not seeing individual chips like when we're looking at a whole garage. We are seeing the floor,
mhm.
and we are not seeing, you know, the debris like you're
Yes.
describing. And
Yes,
so it does help with just general maintenance with the garage too, because it's not requiring a sweep out like every week.
it does.
Um,
And the other thing that it really, I think, helps is, your walls typically are a solid color in most of your garages. It's not like you've got some sort of weird texture to it. So you're letting the floor have some of that texture, add in multiple colors, almost like carpet can,
yep.
versus, your wall paint tends, you walk into a room that has a carpet that has 5 or 6 colors in it, the wall has one color and it just works together. It really helps to create the garage into a space that looks more what our eyes perceive to be correct from the rest of the house
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, good.
Yep.
When you're talking to homeowners, though, about the different chip sizes, what are some of the common questions that they bring to the table?
Well, many times they're confused by why is there the sizes like you were asking me, and they'll say, "Well, then when would I do this 1/8 inch chip, this slightly smaller version of it, because I like that look better." And I tell them, that's where it's great if you're doing, say, an outside porch. My own outside porches here at my current house, they were in bad shape. The concrete wasn't poured very well. We really had to clean them up. I did put a 1/4 inch, that smaller chip on it. It just,
Hmm.
smaller chips tend to look better in a small space. The bigger the room, the bigger the chip. And so people then would go, well, don't I want a bigger chip yet if I have a 3-car garage? We've tried and looked at using the 1/2 inch chips. They just look weird. and nobody
Yeah.
likes them. And
Yeah.
we've put them on sample boards and shown them to people, and they don't test well. They don't test well with us. They don't test well with the homeowners. So 1/4 inch is really kind of that de facto chip one. And that's why I said to you, earlier when we were talking about, yeah, there is 6 sizes, but there's really only 3 people talk about anymore. And it's the
Yeah.
1/4 inch, the 1/8 inch, and the 16th. That 16th is almost exclusively used, like we talked about, commercially, somewhere that you want to transition it, somewhere that you really probably do want to see if it's dirty, like the bathroom floor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it has its place, but really not residentially
Yeah.
anymore.
Great. Well, so kind of going off of that question though about the homeowner, let's talk about colors a little bit.
Mhm.
And so you talk to the homeowner about the different chip sizes, and then naturally the next question is, so what color do we want to
Right.
install? I already mentioned that when we show up for consultation or giving our clients a quote, we bring the samples of our color blends, and even some of the solid colors I think as well. But
We the
talk
so
to us about the chip colors.
Okay, yeah, the solid colors, by the way, we really don't even get them out anymore because nobody really, once they understand why they don't want to do it in their garage, they really
Yeah,
don't play in. So when we do show up, we have 18-inch by 18-inch sample boards, so they're very big. We're not showing you a little color swatch. It's not like
yeah,
a paint thing at Sherwin-Williams or something like that. It's big. It's a 1.5 by 1.5, big board, actually coated in the same coating materials. It's one, so you can really get a sense of how those colors work together, because most of the blends are a mixture of 4 to 6 colors.
right.
But we have 18 standard blends, and there are 1 or 2 of them that have a pretty strong non-neutral color in them. But by and large, our blends are really tan based or gray based. And when we started in 2004, tan was the thing. The tan colors sold just probably 70% of the floors we did were tan based. Flip over 20 plus years later, it is now 80% gray based,
Well, yeah, which
20%
makes
tan
sense.
based. And
Yeah,
so the tans that we're doing are in an older home that's brick or wood sided in a dark color. So they're still pulling in those browns and the tans, but by and large, it's grays these days. And those grays can be anything from a very strong color, like I was telling you, the one with, I called the checkered flag. It's
yep,
a pure white. It's on almost pure black. So, and has 2 or 3 grays in it. Creates a lot of contrast. Versus we have a blend called Lehigh, which I have in my personal garage, which is all a much more toned down charcoal. So it's not strong black. The white isn't white. It's an off-white eggshelly kind of color.
yeah,
And so what I'm trying to do is tone down the contrast. And that's one of the biggest things is I find everyone gravitates right away to a tan or a gray because it's in their garage. They want to look in when the garage doors open and have match the house outside the exterior. But right when they get past that tan or gray, what you start to find is, do they like high contrast
yeah.
or low contrast? And we even have some blends that are predominantly all grays where we're only putting in a small amount of white, a small amount of a dark color, because you still want to have some contrast, or else again it's going to show dirt.
Right.
It's going to show the stones. And what people don't realize is how quickly you see dust
Mm,
on it. And it could be something as simple as you drive in and the dust off your tires comes in, and if you have, back to that, if it's a solid color or all the flakes tend to be very, very uniform in color, you're going to see those things again. It's the blends that we've created and the little to the strong contrast that is there. It's really all there, so they all have that same aesthetic performance.
yeah.
Not that just they look great, but hopefully they hide your debris, and they don't look as streaky if you mopped it and you left mopping streaks. So,
So I'm looking at the Stronghold Floors website right now. So I'm on strongholdfloors.com/floor coating/decorative chip flakes. So this is
mhm,
the page where anybody can go to the website and see some examples of the chips. Again, I highly recommend people requesting a free quote. There's no pressure. We're not pushing anything. Um, we're very straightforward with our pricing, unlike some of our other competitors. We just have a basic price and we give it to you, and that's it. But I'm saying this because we will bring these floor colors so you can actually see them in your
Yes.
garage. Um, but we have quite a few different options here, and if somebody goes to the website, they can start to see what you're talking about with the different high contrast, low contrast. Maybe a good example is like the Somerset versus the Lycoming.
Yes.
Somerset is going to be lower contrast versus the Lycoming, which has kind of the pops of blue, the white, the black, very strong
Yeah.
contrast colors.
But Sam,
Talk to us kind of like the like when these different colors go into homes, what are you advising people as they're processing which colors to choose?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Most times it is going to be tied somewhat to the house exterior.
Yeah.
So that generally breaks off most people in, like I said, where we're going, hey, you've got this beautiful gray stone out here. You've got a different kind of gray siding. So that those gray tones, you're trying to work it in a little bit. But there are people that want to get into a strong color, like our Union blend that has the real dark blue in it,
Mm,
closer to my shirt, a black, a white, a gray, high contrast, beautiful floor. It's does that blue fit in with something oftentimes that's when they don't bring it out past the garage doors because
got it.
they're doing something inside that room that is tied to that blue color palette. And so, oftentimes I talk about multi-use, the garage, yes, we park there. Yes, I store stuff in there. But, if you are a diehard sports fan, and you're looking to try and bring in a color to your sports team, you could do it. And not necessarily maybe with our
Yeah,
standard
yeah,
18, but there are ways to even customize it. We don't custom that often, and I'll explain why. But we even have a blend that we don't have on the website called Hog. Everybody has it. It's the Harley blend. It's got Harley orange. It's
yep,
got black. It's
yep,
got white. We have done that probably 15 times over the years. So not a whole lot, but they all have Harleys.
yeah,
They all have
yeah,
Harley paraphernalia on the walls. You're looking behind yourself and it says Harley Davidson and there's 3 or 4 bikes sitting in there. So sometimes that color they're selecting it really to tie into a really strong theme. It's something they really
yeah.
care about. But
But you're saying often the practical advice that you give people is, hey, you've got this stone that wraps around,
yes,
your house, or you have your garage has these pillars that are all facaded with,
yes,
stone,
yes.
and this color matches that, so it'll create
It
some
does.
seamlessness as it goes into the house.
Absolutely. And I've even had to be where if they had a stone driveway, very long stone driveway, you had to kind of look at the stones that were even out there and go, is this going to help if they bring stones in on tires and they're leaving
Yeah,
them in
yeah,
there? Is this always going to be showing it or is it going to help hide it? So
yeah,
there are those little weird considerations, but yes, it's really about, for the most part, tie it to what looks good with your house.
yeah,
That way you enjoy it, but even from a resale standpoint, 10 years down the road, you go to sell that and someone walks in there and sees it. y- you asked me one time, do we ever do any really weird colors? Yes, we have. We've done some really weird colors. I just can't fathom when that person that had one that had a light pink, a light blue, yellow, all these colors. It actually tied really well to one of the franchises that sells yogurt, their color scheme. That's in their garage. I
yeah,
can't imagine when you go to sell that home, how that
yeah,
real estate agent is going to walk into that garage and go, "Oh yeah,
yeah,
this is great. I'm glad you have this coated." They're going to walk in and go, "Is this on purpose?"
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you can do some really crazy things. But no, most people do it. So it looks great. It gives an earthy feel. It creates a warmth. And that's where the contrast, you have to decide, those super high contrast. you do decrease a little bit of the warmth look, and you're moving it more towards like the car showroom or the race car enthusiast
Yeah.
versus like again, I have our Lehigh blend, earthy grays, very typical. The colors are in there. You're going to see it on stone on the houses.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's super pleasant. It's probably our fourth best seller. Um, but we even see regional differences, Sam. I mean, people in PA, if you look each year versus all of our customers in Maryland versus all of our customers in Virginia, you will see a slightly different trend in the top
Wow.
four. So that's an interesting thing. It's pretty weird. I think it's tied more to townhouses.
Huh.
They tend to do whatever color they feel like because they can't come out beyond the garage door due to
Sure.
the homeowners association, and because they might use that garage as like a man cave, a she shed, whatever we want to call it, they are tweaking it a little more. They
Yeah.
are customizing it. They're
Yeah.
going, I'm going to give this some sort of personality, not
Yeah.
I'm going to tie it to my house.
Yeah. I mean, just again um, looking at the colors here, I could see, somebody using Stafford, which is like this dark gray, this really beautiful red color, the
Yes,
white that complements really, really well, add some contrast with the grays. You know, if I was a typical Corvette guy and I had either a black Corvette or a red Corvette or, you know, I could see that being the floor that I wanted in there. If
Sam,
I
you
was,
nailed it.
yeah,
Stafford is actually the one of the ones that you do tend to see Corvettes on it, and actually some of the high performance, like the specialty Dodge,
yeah,
like
yep,
Chargers.
yep,
We had someone that took Stafford and asked us to change out that maroon color that you're talking about
yep.
to a purple that we color matched to his Dodge Charger. This
Oh,
very
that's cool.
special. They think they used to call them Dodge Demons, so it was a
Yep,
very limited
yeah,
production of that particular vehicle. And so, yeah, we color matched it to the paint. Now, again, when he goes to sell that beautiful home down on the Chesapeake Bay, I do
yep,
think the next buyer is going to walk in and go, why is there this purple? Because
yep.
it's not even Ravens purple. So you can't
Right,
even sit there
right.
and say, hey,
Yeah,
this is, because the guy was a Baltimore Ravens fan. No, it's not that
yeah.
color. It's not that purple at
Yeah,
all.
well, I guess Stafford could also be a color for Ohio State fans too.
I believe so. Yes. Yes. Well,
um,
the blue ones that we've done a lot, are Penn State fans. So
that's
State
what was
College,
gonna be the next thing I mentioned. Yeah.
yes.
Um, I do think it's just on the website here we have a disclaimer about the colors. Color samples above are for demonstration only. Something
Yes.
that I want to stress, and I think you would stress too. And well, I've kind of already mentioned, like, if you are interested in these colors, please request a quote and have our team come out to you so you
Yes.
can actually see these colors in person. It's nothing. There's again no pressure, but I highly recommend because screens are different.
Yes.
They're
Absolutely.
different calibrations. The colors are going to look different. If you want to see what these colors are going to look like, just go ahead and request a quote and book a time where these colors can actually be in your garage and you can see what they look like.
Yes, absolutely. And it's amazing how often people will have looked, and when they call and they'll say, hey, when you come out, I really think I'm interested in, let's say, for example, like combing, because they think they like that blue. And then when you get there and you lay that in front of them, they go, oh, it's not really what I was expecting. Well, part of it is you're looking at it on this super small screen. You really can't pick it out on your phone as well as, again, that's why our samples are so large.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that oftentimes people do point out after they've met with us is, hey, I had a competitor out and they got out these samples, but they were 2 inch by 3 inch. Kind of like you go pick up at the paint store, to
Yep.
bring home and hold your color swatches up against the wall. That's not enough. That is never going to be enough for you to pick out a chip blend. So
Um, so, I, i- is there anything else like when you get the colors in front of a customer, any other questions that they have, uh, to, as they're trying to process what colors to pick for their garage?
well, we have had a lot of people in recent years ask about what's a good complementary wall color to go with them. So if this is part of a bigger garage remodel where they're going, hey, before you get here, I'm going to paint. Do you have any recommendations? And we actually do have a few blogs that talk about that, particular paint colors that really work well with certain blends. And honestly, before you ask me, Sam, I don't remember the name of that particular blog. I've written too many of them over the time, but if you search on colors, I'm pretty sure it's in the title. But that is one thing that tends to come up. The other thing I do have to point out, Sam, is if we're working on an older floor and it's really heavily damaged and we're going to do a lot of repairs, or if the floor, due to the drains, has a lot of slope, it goes down to a drain, it goes back up. So it's a wavy floor. Certain colors will highlight that more than others. And so when you get into those ones that you look at and you go, oh, that one's like Lycoming, or not like some of our blends that really just are very soft tan or soft gray. You don't have that white or black for contrast.
Right.
That's the one of the things I have to warn them about. Not only is it not going to hide dirt and debris as well, it's also going to highlight the rolliness of your floor, the imperfections in a sense of your floor, the fact that it might have a bird bath where the floor just kind of goes across, but you can see there's a little dip, a little roll in it. Certain blends will highlight that.
So like for instance, Montgomery, which is again one looking at the website here. Montgomery it's got some darker grays, almost kind of like, at least from my monitors, looking like almost greenish grays, and then some white flakes in there as well. But generally, that is a much more uniformed look. And if installed on a floor that has some wave to it, or we're trying to intentionally hide stuff, we would want to stay away from a
we would be advising you to. We would advise you and say, hey, that has the potential to highlight the problems in your floor and people don't realize when it's plain concrete how much that helps to hide it. That just dullness, where all of a sudden we put something on. First of all, it's shiny now. It's 100% shiny across the whole surface. It's completely sealed. Well, now the way your lights work, they're going to reflect, and you're going to, as you walk across it, it will highlight those rolls in the floor as the reflectivity moves with your eyes. So you're absolutely right. That color versus, say, Somerset. Somerset is one of our most popular, not only because of the colors, but because of how it aesthetically performs. And really all that is a derivative of Adams that one former team member years ago said, why don't we try putting this chip in for a custom job that we were doing commercially? We made the sample board and went, that is a beautiful blend. So that Somerset blend is actually our blend. That is not a manufacturer blend. It is not a blend that anybody else natively offers that we're aware of.
It looks like you just took the Adams blend and replaced white with a little bit of a gray.
What we did is we reduced the percentages of all the base colors of Adams and added in a color. So, and Somerset has actually been one of the blends that we've also pulled out that light blue and injected another color for a person that says, hey, I want to pull in Ravens purple.
Yeah.
We've added that in. We've done a few different NFL teams, but it's not as common as you think, because again, we have to tell someone, listen, if you're going to live here for 20 years, go for it. If you're doing this and you're thinking you're going to move in 3 years, don't do this to your floor because it's permanent and you can't paint over it. Our coatings can't be painted over. You have to grind them. You have to bond new coatings to them, or you have to grind them all the way back through down to concrete. And that is not easy to do. So,
is there anything else, colors, when we're talking about these chip flake colors, that it's important for people to know as they're making their decision?
Well, one thing I would advise is if you're going to go past your garage door, you've asked me sometimes, do people regret the colors?
Yeah.
And we talk about that. I don't think they tend to regret it unless they go out past their garage door and they brought the wrong colors out. Because I know I've told you the story of the woman that called me crying because her husband did a Penn State colored blue and came out, passed, and we kept saying, "Are you sure you want to go out?" And he had these really deep aprons, so he had 14 inches of it beyond his garage door. And she called us and said, "Please tell me that you can make that part go away." So
Yeah.
they had us come back, grind off those, and take the blue out of it. So we had to do a complimentary blend in a sense.
Yeah.
But no, I would say the biggest thing to think about is the contrast going to be too high? I personally find ones that have true black and true white, they look great. They're very beautiful. But if you go on a very big garage, a 3, a 4 car, it actually, to me, is slightly dizzying to look down upon it. And so we do have to warn people. The other thing is, we've talked about this before about, do we coat steps? Yes, we can coat a step or two. But if you're walking out and you look down on a high contrast step, like our Adams blend, the typical blend that is the most common one for every floor coatings installer in the United States, that high contrast white and black, you can't pick that step out very well anymore, especially if they have bifocals. So what you don't want to do is let them step out onto a step that they can't now see the depth perception of it.
Right.
And that high contrast alleviates your ability for depth perception.
Yeah.
The more the high contrast,
or less. So it makes it more difficult to.
Makes it more difficult. Yes. Yeah. You'll see it walking up, and that's why we tell people, hey, make the steps the base gray, or some complementary color, but make them stand out against that. Even floors in Arizona, their garages are poured where they go in so far, and then they go up onto this ledge, and then that's the slab, the main slab of the home. Well, talking to people at Code Out there, they've talked about how people trip on it a lot because they cannot make that distinguishment. So again, it's the contrast. I don't think they regret it from the look as much as sometimes you can regret it because you created a problem for yourself, a trip hazard in a sense.
All right, Mike. Well, thank you very much. And we will see you all again next time. Remember to go and get a free quote on the website and check out the resources. We've done over 9,000 floors, and we can now say that we have over 1,000 5-star reviews. And so check out our reviews, check out our resources, and go and request a free quote. See those floors in your space for yourself, and we know that you're going to love and find the right one for you. We'll see y'all next time.